a clump of blonde hair on the highway to heaven.
She said, "Don't forget, we're leaving planet on the 30th.
Two beautiful twins climb into their SUV and vanish.
When I came back, they were gone.
They're driving on the long and winding road to Hana, Maui, squeezing under tree tunnels, over one-lane bridges, and around dangerous curves. 620 of them.
It takes some paying attention to make sure you're on your side of the road.
It's scenery to die for. Literally. Alexandria and Anastasia Duvall were 37-year-old identical twin sisters who reportedly did everything together. Not only the fun,
They shower together.
but the ferocious.
They get into nasty fights. They pull each other's hair. They hit each other. What do you make of this?
For them, they have to be with each other. They cannot be separated.
Anastasia's ex-boyfriend, cab driver Jeffrey Hall, says despite the twins' regular disagreements, they were almost like one soul in two bodies.
Do you get the sense that they were also inseparable as much as they fought?
In between the fighting, they were like normal sisters. They would like finish each other's sentences and know what the other one was looking for before the other one even said anything.
In high school, they were cheerleading twins, and as adults, they became the yoga twins. They lived in this luxury high-rise apartment in West Palm Beach, Florida, and Twin Power Yoga was featured on a local news station.
Our tagline is power the body, power the soul. That's exactly what you get in our hot power yoga discipline.
Monica Coleman is a former student of the twin yogis.
They were inseparable. We didn't see one without the other, unless, of course, when they were teaching class.
But in West Palm Beach, Alexandria and Anastasia were known by different names.
Lift your arms.
Allison and Ann Didao.
There was a lot of negativity that surrounded the twins at that point.
Twin Power Yoga generated so much buzz, Hollywood came calling. A producer approached the twins about a reality show.
The show is going to be about a gathering of various different personality types and then bringing them into a home.
But Police Sergeant Gordon Sagoon Jr. says when the show fizzled, the twins were suddenly in over their financial heads and flaked on the bills.
They didn't pay their employees, they didn't refund their clients, they just got up and left.
The twins packed up and moved to Park City, Utah.
When they went to Utah, they actually changed their names to Alexandria and Anastasia.
Sagoon says the twins brought something else with them to Utah, a drinking problem.
They were contacted by Utah Police Department out there for some kind of another disorderly type call. It was body camera footage from Utah officers, just seeing the way they were acting.
And what did that video reveal?
Looks like one of them is intoxicated. Basically, they're being very disorderly.
After that incident, they moved to the gorgeous Hawaiian island of Maui. That's where Anastasia met cab driver Jeffrey Hall.
So tell me how you met Anastasia.
I got a call from the police that somebody needed a ride from a hotel. The cops were standing by her, and they were like escorting her out. And she said she needed a ride to Hana, so I'm like, okay, sure, I can do that.
Jeffrey says after that long drive, they started dating.
All right, tell them.
But he says Anastasia's drinking bouts were epic. He even videotaped her during what he claims was a 2-day bender.
Never take a picture of me again.
You gonna kill me?
They'll kill you.
2 champagne bottles today, not to mention the 2.
Oh, where's your Bacardi rum?
I kind of made the video to protect myself, but to show Anastasia the next day the way she acts.
Not long after that, Jeffrey and Anastasia broke up. She soon found a new boyfriend, Federico Bailey.
What was your first impression of these two women?
When I first met Anastasia, I was amazed. She appeared out of nowhere.
Did you ever see the two of them fight and pull hair?
Yeah. Actually, the first day that I met Alexandria, they began fighting. More like punches. elbows, and they struck each other like they wanted to hurt each other.
One day, Federico and Anastasia left their house in Haiku to camp out in an isolated area of Maui, way past Hanatown.
Federico and Anastasia went to Costco to go buy some camping equipment. But for some unknown reason, they had Alexandria's credit card. So they ended up leaving. They went back to Haiku, and this time Alexandria kind of forced their way to go camping with them.
Now all three take the treacherous Hana Highway to get to the campsite.
She began breaking the rules. She brought wine to the camping trip when I was trying to keep them off of the wine.
You didn't want Alexandria on this trip, right?
I personally did not really care for her to be there on the trip, no. Anastasia did not want her sister on the trip.
Federico says when he left to use the bathroom, the twins had disappeared.
And I didn't see them again.
And it was about to become clear the twins had left the camp once again in a bitter sister battle. Alexandria was at the wheel when she and Anastasia were driving back toward Hanatown.
The driver was swearing and there was screaming from another girl.
Lawrence Lau says he was behind the twins on this very narrow portion of the Hana Road. The fight is about to go from bad to worse.
We could see arms pulling her hair, and her head was yanking and jerking like this.
He says he saw the twins pull over into one of the turnouts.
The driver kind of turned to this side and was like fighting the girl off in this manner. She put it into gear and stomped on the gas.
Then, in a crazy, chaotic second, the SUV plunges 200 feet with the terrified twins inside.
All of a sudden, I heard this boom.
Virginia Timble was at her flower shop when she heard the chilling sound of certain death.
It just went down the rock, and boom, it's like a bomb.
When Maui Police Sergeant Lawrence Beecraft got to the accident scene, he was shocked.
When the vehicle landed, did it land straight, like a cat lands on its feet, or was it on its side?
It landed on its rear end, almost perpendicular. So its front license plate would have been up to the sky.
In a breathtaking rescue attempt, a helicopter lowers first responders down to the crash scene. But only one twin was airlifted to the hospital. The fatal nosedive off the high cliff is almost like the chilling climax from Thelma and Louise. Except in this case, the passengers were the so-called terrible twins of yoga, engaged in what cops call a hair-pulling plunge to the death. A fight that turned physical. Alexandria and Anastasia Duvall drove off this steep cliff in Maui, landing on the rocky shore 200 feet below.
I was kind of shocked that it was landed where it did.
Maui police officer Ian Custer was one of the first on the scene.
It's just a little piece of land, a rock, right?
Maybe 10 feet more to the right and it would have been in the water.
And likely no one would have survived.
Right.
One twin survived. One twin died.
And what did you see?
I saw an adult female and she was unconscious. I tried to feel for her pulse and there was none, and she wasn't responding.
The dead twin was Anastasia. Alexandria, the driver, was uninjured.
Was she crying? Was she hysterical? Was she asking for her sister?
No, she didn't say a word to us. She refused to talk to us, actually.
But if she's just been in an accident, wouldn't she be asking, where's my sister?
Well, a normal person, maybe.
Alexandria was airlifted to Maui Memorial Medical Center. Officer Justin Moliola rushed there, hoping she would open up about what happened.
She didn't really want to say much to us at the hospital. She remained pretty defensive on questions.
How was she defensive?
Her initial reaction to us coming was, "Why are we there?" She seemed pretty disconnected from the whole scenario.
Did she ask about her sister?
We ended up having to tell her what happened to her sister because she refused to answer any more questions from us.
And how did she take the news?
I remember her just having a real blank look on her face. It was actually pretty bizarre from the normal. Her face, just a blank stare.
And what Moliola says was even more bizarre, the reaction of the twins' father to the death of his daughter.
His first words to me were, if anyone should have died, it was that Alexandria.
But that's the one who survived.
Correct.
So in other words, he's saying the wrong daughter survived?
That's the way we took it, yeah.
At the hospital, police took blood samples from Alexandria.
Was the driver intoxicated?
Her blood results came back that she was 3 times over the legal limit here in the state.
So she was pretty intoxicated behind that wheel?
That's what the blood results showed, yeah.
Because Alexandria and Anastasia were identical twins, the cops needed a positive ID to make certain that it really was Alexandria who survived the crash. The Maui cops went to Alexandria's house in nearby Haiku. Her current boyfriend, Lonnie Dickerson, answered the door.
One of the things that stuck out to me when we got into the house was there's a pretty good size, pretty large picture of these twins standing side by side. It just didn't sit right. It didn't seem right to me. It seemed very weird.
And you recognized them?
I recognized, just because we had seen her, I'd seen her at the hospital. I knew one of them was her. I couldn't tell you exactly which was which.
Cops asked the boyfriend to come to the hospital to positively ID Alexandria.
When you said that they went off the cliff and one of them is dead, I mean, was he shocked? Did he show emotion?
There really was no emotion. He kind of just stood there and stared at us.
You've got one person dead and 2 people close to her, and neither one of them is crying or upset that she's dead?
It was bizarre. It really was.
And while all this was playing out, Anastasia's boyfriend, Federico Bailey, was still back at the remote campsite, wondering why the twins hadn't returned.
How did you find out that she had died?
I ended up sleeping in the tent that night by myself, and I waited for them. They didn't come back that night. And so in the morning, I decided to hitch a ride to Hana. I stopped off at a friend's house, and he said, "I'm sorry, but one of them died. There was a wreck, and one of them died." And I just couldn't believe my ears.
And cops couldn't believe their ears either when they soon heard what spilled out of Federico.
He shared basically that he could see this coming. Anastasia saying that, Alexandra's gonna kill me.
What you're about to hear is Federico's version of events that led up to the crash.
7 days prior to the death, Alexandra informed me that she was going to kill her sister. And then she said it again, but she said it a different way. She said, "I killed my sister," as though it had already happened.
But why would she want to kill her sister?
Well, she didn't really say why she wanted to kill her.
Do you have any suspicions?
Well, there was a lot of jealousy there between the 2 of them.
What were they jealous about?
Even though they were listed as identical twins, they didn't see themselves as identical twins, and they actually resented the idea.
Federico reveals even more. He further claims he heard Alexandria make a chilling comment to Anastasia. Was Alexandria planning a suicide mission?
She said, "Don't forget, we're leaving planet on the 30th.
Are you then inferring leaving planet is I'm going to die?
I immediately suspected that they were planning on doing suicide.
When Maui police got the call about the crash on the steep cliffs of Hana, patrol officer Ian Custer knew it would be deadly.
The water is there, and are you getting wet? Are the waves hitting you?
Yeah, the waves were crashing and we were getting wet. I destroyed my taser and some other weapons.
In the mangled SUV behind the exploded airbags, Custer finds Anastasia's bloodied body. Dead from the sheer trauma of plunging 200 feet to the rocky shore below. In the sun visor and clutched in Anastasia's cold hand, strands of blonde hair, presumably her twin sister Alexandria's.
One person was pulling the hair, there's screaming going on. They're driving very erratic, high speed, low speed, soaring all over the road.
Maui accident investigator Sergeant Lawrence Beecraft and I went back to the crash scene. There's since been a concrete barrier erected. Beecraft takes me through his theory of what happened.
So, which direction were they coming from, and who was driving?
Alexandria was driving. They're going in this direction that we're walking.
And by the time they got here, had people already seen them fighting and swerving?
Yes.
The first thing B-Craft does is look for the tire marks on the road.
And where were they?
They're right where we're standing. There were two sets. There was one on the left, one on the right. I saw these marks. And the normal way of doing an investigation is you start from the vehicle and you work your way back. But in this case, I couldn't do that because the vehicle's over the cliff. I saw these two marks, and these marks are unique, very unique when I saw these. These are not braking. These were yaw marks.
B-Craft says yaw marks are curved marks that show the driver made a very sharp turn.
Turning towards the ocean?
Toward the ocean, correct. As I got closer to this dirt area, all in this area over here, you could see that this debris had been shot out. So these, not only was it a yaw mark, it was also accelerating. That tire was spinning. So as it approached this soft area, this soft gravel, it shot it out onto the roadway. It wasn't somebody braking for an animal. It wasn't somebody braking to avoid a car. You could see that the marks were marks induced by steering. It was oversteering. The vehicle could not steer any further than what it was.
Then B-Craft recovers the car's black box. Just like airplanes, newer cars have data recorders that document what was going on during the final seconds of the crash.
What did the data inside the car tell you?
It gave me that there was 100% acceleration. I believe it was up to 3 seconds prior to collision.
And could the car's data also tell you whether anybody hit the brakes?
Yes.
And did they?
There was no braking. No braking.
I mean, because if you're driving and you're turning this way and the ocean's right there, how do you not hit the brakes?
You don't hit the brakes if you want to go off the cliff.
How did Alexandria survive while Anastasia died? According to Sergeant B-Craft, it's simple.
The reason why she survived is that she's in a compartment. She's behind the steering wheel. The airbag deploys. It keeps her in the seat. Anastasia was not contained in that. Her area is bigger. She also had an airbag in front of her, side curtain airbags, and airbags coming out from the seat. She was bouncing around in that area.
Well, isn't it possible that it was just really bad luck that of all the places to go over, it went over the part where there was no wall?
No.
Why no?
This was intentional. There was no luck involved. This was not an accident. This was not a traffic crash. This was a criminal act.
A criminal act. That is what Maui police are calling the plunging cliff crash. Detective Sergeant Gordon Sagoon Jr. says the evidence shows Alexandria purposely crashed the car in a murder-suicide attempt.
And is it possible that they were just in a fit and they were arguing and she lost her mind and it created this horrible, tragic situation?
It could be, but I still believe it was very intentional. That she definitely drove that vehicle off that cliff to kill both herself and her sister.
But some have suggested Anastasia's pulling Alexandria's hair may have led to the dramatic steering wheel turn and fatal plunge. So now to test that theory and others, the police reenact what might have happened in the seconds before the car went over the cliff.
The things we wanted to do was disprove the theories that, one, the hair pulling, or we were trying to disprove that the passenger caused this whole incident. What we knew at this point was that the wheel was turned to the left 288 degrees. We knew that it had to be done in 1 second.
The vehicle homicide unit places colored masking tape on the steering wheel to represent a 288-degree turn, which is what the black box recorder showed.
You can actually turn the steering wheel 288 degrees within a second. So we're just trying to prove that it could be done.
The officers run through different scenarios. The passenger, Anastasia, grabbing the wheel. Even Anastasia trying to put her foot to the pedal and turn the wheel to the ocean.
What do you believe was the intent of the driver?
What the intent of the driver, just from our investigation, showed is that she had definitely intended to drive that car off the cliff at that point.
But why?
Couldn't tell you.
Maui cops say the crash on the cliff was no accident.
This was intentional. This was not accidental.
Sergeant Lawrence B-Craft says the evidence shows Alexandria Duvall purposely plunged off the peak, killing her twin sister, Anastasia.
So you don't think that it's possibly just coincidence that this is where they went off the cliff, off the road?
Absolutely not. Take a look behind us. It's basically a straight roadway. This was calculated. They knew, or she knew exactly where she was going off.
Investigators say the circumstantial evidence was piling as high as the 200-foot cliffs on the northeast shore of Maui. The hair-pulling fight, the tire marks on the road, and the data from the car's black box. It all adds up, cops say, to a murder-suicide attempt.
What do you think the motive was?
I believe that Alexandria did not want to lose her sister Anastasia because the plan was that Anastasia and Federico were going to move. They're going to start a business on another island. And I believe that Alexandria did not want that to happen, that she was not going to lose her sister to anybody. And she potentially drove off that cliff to stop that.
Police charge Alexandria with second-degree murder. They go to her house to make the arrest. Only one problem.
Everything was gone. It was empty. The house was empty, and at that point we knew she was making moves to leave.
The only way off our island is either plane or boat. So more than likely, if she's going to go back to the mainland, it's going to be plane.
Cops quickly learn Alexandria is booked on a flight for the mainland, so they make a mad rush to the Maui airport.
Something happens to the plane. I can't remember if they told me it was, I think it was mechanical difficulties. So the plane was grounded. What we found out was she was staying in a hotel near our airport. And sure enough, she was there, and we arrested her.
Alexandria pleads not guilty at her preliminary hearing. She's wearing an orange jumpsuit and a sling on her broken arm.
That woman that was in the driver's seat, if you were to see her again, would you recognize her?
Yes, sir.
If you see her in court today, would you please point to her and tell us what color she's wearing?
Yes, sir. The orange.
But after the evidence is presented, the judge makes a surprising decision.
The judge says what?
He basically states that we don't have enough probable cause to hold her for the murder charge and releases her.
The murder charge dismissed, Alexandria now books a flight to New York State. But while she's there, another legal shocker. The Maui County grand jury indicts her.
She wasn't attempting to evade detection or anything. She had no idea she'd been indicted.
New York cops arrest Alexandria, her second arrest for the alleged crime.
The indictment charges you with murder in the second degree.
And now in a yellow jumpsuit, her hands cuffed, she's pleading not guilty for the second time.
She left Hawaii to come back to the States to grieve, not to escape from justice. And after she left, it appears that the district attorney out there in Hawaii was familiar with that principle, which is a grand jury can indict a ham sandwich.
You went for a murder charge, but why didn't you also add perhaps other charges like reckless driving, drunk driving?
Because it wasn't reckless driving or drunk driving. The evidence was compelling that the SUV was driven intentionally over the cliff, so that made it murder. Murder being defined in Hawaii as causing the death of another person intentionally or knowingly.
Now the woman accused of getting into hair-pulling fights with her twin sister is in a fight for her freedom. She returns to Maui as her sensational murder trial begins.
The state will ask the court find that the defendant intentionally or knowingly drove off that cliff.
This case is a tragic accident, not murder.
Alexandria's defense attorney said it was actually Anastasia who caused the accident. He blames it on the hair pulling.
So violent that we have evidence from the body, the autopsy. Anastasia Duvall, in her hands, had long blonde hair. She's pulling my client's hair so violently that it pulled her hair out.
Lawrence Lau, the Boy Scout chaperone who claims he saw it all go down, took the witness stand and described the chilling final seconds before the car tumbled off the cliff.
And what did you see?
I saw a woman that had, it was kind of a curly hair, and I saw what appeared to be fighting between the women. The hair was being yanked on, yanking the head of the driver, and the driver's head was being pulled to the side.
But then a dramatic courtroom moment that raised everyone's eyebrows.
After I learned that Anastasia had died, and I saw Alexandria, I gave her a shower, washed her hair, sat down after that.
You heard right. Federico Bailey says after his girlfriend, Anastasia, died, he gave a shower to twin sister, Alexandria. He then testified about some strange behavior.
She put on all of Anastasia's clothes. She put on a dress by Anastasia and started like dressing like her.
Did you question her about wearing Anna's clothes?
No. When I saw her in Anastasia's dress, it was disturbing. Seeing Alexandria and Anastasia, the clothes that she was wearing, it was kind of hard to distinguish.
He said, I helped her shower.
But the defense put up a strong fight and compelling evidence. Defense expert Wayne Slagle, an accident reconstructionist, testified that the data from the black box showed that Alexandria didn't intentionally drive off that cliff.
Your opinion, is this consistent with a person who is intent on intentionally driving off the cliff?
Based on the steering chart that I put up there, no. There's a lot of jerking of the steering wheel going on in here, and that's not consistent.
Alexandria chose a bench trial, meaning the judge would decide the outcome.
For me, one of the most dramatic pieces of evidence in this case is the hair. It's sitting right here on the bench.
And when he announced the verdict, everyone was stunned.
The defendant lost control of the vehicle, and maybe she did input the left turn. She may have done that. But that's as a result of the evidence that shows her hair was being pulled, and whatever happened, happened. She wasn't responsible for that. The court will enter a judgment of acquittal. The defendant is discharged.
Not guilty. Alexandria is free.
Were you disappointed that the judge didn't find her guilty of murder?
Yes. And obviously I disagree.
You disagree?
Of course.
Does that mean that you believe she got away with murder?
Well, that's the fact. Okay. She got away with murder.
I've forgiven Alexandria.
When she was found not guilty of murder, is that a just verdict?
No.
Alexandria has always maintained her innocence. Crime Watch Daily contacted Alexandria's attorney for a comment, but he told us she's not giving any interviews at this time. Now, two people will spend the rest of their lives without their soulmate. Alexandria, who lost her twin sister, and Federico, who lost the love of his life.
I'm sorry for your loss. What's the last thing Anastasia said to you?
She told me that she loved me. She was very beautiful.